Westfuhal and welcome to the Old English second lesson. So let's start off immediately with Hur fast fu. So Hur fast fu means how are you? The literal translation of Hur fast fu is how do you fare, and I guess it's a more old-fashioned way of saying how are you. So I've got the numerous answers you could have to that question. So the first one is saglich, which means happy. The second one is dremlias, which means sad. Third one is jesund, which means fine. And angry is gram. There's a couple of things to point out. This letter here that looks like an A and an E put together is pronounced like an A, and I'll get onto that later. And this C with an accent above it is pronounced like a ch. So instead of saglich, it's pronounced saglich. And if you see it look like a line above an A, pronounce it like an R sound. So dreamlias. It's kind of hard to pull off if it's in the middle of a word. And the G here is pronounced like a Y because it's got that accent above it. And angry means gram. So going on to some of the letters that were common in Old English, we've got the fawn, we've got ash, we've got the ev letter, and we've got the win letter. Now, all of these letters are no longer in the English alphabet, but I think it would be prudent to go through these letters because you'll see these letters quite a bit in Old English transcripts. So the first letter that I want to go on is fawn, and you'll notice here fawn kind of looks like a B and a P put together, but the letter was actually pronounced like a F sound. So for example, thing or think. And I've included the capitalised versions of it. And the capitalised version of fawn was nice and easy. It was basically just like a fatter version of it, basically. Now, going on to ash, which we saw here with saglich and here with fast, it makes an A sound. And the capitalised version is a bit different here. It's like an E with, I guess you could say, a little cape. Both of these letters are still used in modern Icelandic to this day. The third letter I want to talk about is ev, and I've tried to draw it the best I can. It doesn't look very good, but the ev sound made a f sound. Now you notice both of these make a f sound, and in Old English, both these letters were kind of interchangeable. So for example, the word for thing, you could spell it either with a fawn or with an ev. It was interchangeable, and the capitalised version of ev was basically a D with a line in the middle there. And the final letter that I want to talk about is the win letter. Now the win letter looked very much like a P, but you can see here it's a bit more slanted at the bottom there, and it made a W sound. The capitalised version is the same as the non-capitalised version, so you'll only see it as the win letter. So now I'm going to go over some more basic words. The first word that I want to talk about is swa, and swa means as in Old English. We're going to whilch and huile. Now, in the previous lesson, I talked about this little rule here where you can, if you see an HW in Old English, you can switch it around for a WH, and we can, of course, use it with these words here. So, for example, whilch, we can change the H and the W around, so it would be whilch, which I guess with a bit of imagination you could guess is which. And going on to huile, if we just change the H and the W around, we get exactly while. Now, I want to talk about this thing about the Old English word for the. There was actually 3 words for it. there was se, seyo, and fat. And the reason why there was 3 words for the was because in Old English there were genders. Now, of course, today in modern English we do not have any genders, we just have the and it's only the. But in Old English there were 3 genders: the masculine, the feminine, and the neuter. And I've given them some examples here. So, for example, if you were saying the king, you would say Sir Kinning. If you was going to say the queen, you would say Seyo Queen. And if you were saying the butter, you would say Fat Butteran. Finally, we have an important tip. I've found something that might help you with translating Old English. If there's a word that you're not entirely clear on, this might help you. So, if you see a U with a line above it, so for example in the Old English word ku, you can change that U for an OW in modern English. So ku would become cow. Just remove the U, replace it with an OW, and that is indeed the word for cow. But there's also numerous other languages where you can do that. For example, in Scots you can replace the U with an OO, and in Scots the pronunciation is the same. It's pronounced ku, but they just remove the U and replace it with a double O. And in West Frisian they replaced it with an O. And the reason why that works in West Frisian was because Old English and Old Frisian were so close that they also had this little thing with a U and replacing it with a letter. So very close to the West Frisian word for cow, which is cu. I hope you enjoyed this video. Lesson 3 will be coming out in a few days. And as always, I'll see you at the next demo.